How you decide to market your brand is how you show up in the world. Just Marketing is committed to making a difference through being and building inclusive, accessible, anti-racist, compassionate businesses. If we haven't met yet, my name is Meg Brunson, and Just Marketing combines my passion for accessibility and inclusivity with my expertise in the digital marketing space. Let's do this. Let's talk about alt text. Alt text is a term that's short for alternative text, and it's sometimes called an alt tag, an alt attribute, or an image description. Alt text is a physical summary of an image or written copy that accurately describes an image to a user. Alt text is a necessary step in your Just Marketing strategy. Like my kids would say, but why? According to WebAIM, a nonprofit with the Center for Persons with Disabilities, missing or ineffective alt text is the most problematic aspect of web accessibility. Let's talk about why we need alt text. It is a failsafe. So if an image on a website fails to load, the alt text will indicate what the missing image was supposed to be. This doesn't just apply to a faulty display on your side. For example, people who disable images from displaying in email apps, alt text will display where the image would have shown up. Secondly, we need it for accessibility reasons. Alt text is vital for somebody who is blind or has low vision and uses assistive technology like a screen reader or text-to-speech programs in order to access digital content because the alt text accurately describes the image to the user. A successful marketer will use alt text every time they upload images. This includes on their website, in emails, and on social media. Not only will this help people with visual impairments understand what your image is about, it also helps convey your message faster if and when the page is slow to load. So let's talk about how we add alt text. Alt text is typically typed into a form field within the specific image's settings on your web page, email provider, and social media. If you're not sure where that form is, right, or if it's not possible to add alt text, another thing you can do is include descriptive captions. So alt text is actually embedded into the photo, and it's not seen when people view your photos. However, image descriptions are included as a part of your caption or your description on social media. So typically, if you are using image descriptions, it would be formatted inside brackets. So you'd have a set of brackets, and inside the brackets, it would say image description, and then I think it's a colon, right? The two dots. What is that two dots called? It's a colon, right? Image description, colon, a person with a laptop, for example. This will allow someone to visualize your image if, for any reason, they cannot see it. I also want to add that it's always best to add your own descriptions whenever possible. While some social media platforms use object recognition technology to provide automatic alt text, there are definitely limits to its reliability. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn provide specific fields for you to add alt text for images and Gifs. There are also some third-party tools that allow you to add alt text. And if not, you can put it, like I said, right into the image or right into the description or the caption of that image so that somebody can read it. Also remember that placement matters. If you're using alt text, screen readers will announce it after your username and location tag, but before your caption. So if you're putting the image description in your caption, most people tend to put it after the content of the caption, but before their hashtags. All right, that's going to be the most appropriate place for you to put alt text. Now let's talk about 7 tips for how to write descriptive alt text for images and GIFs. All right, now we know why we should use alt text. We know how to go about it, but let's talk about how to actually write it. We're going to provide these 7 tips to introduce on how to introduce alt text effectively into your marketing strategy. First, you need to be specific and succinct. Make your alt text as short as possible while describing the photo, keeping the photo's purpose in mind. The most popular screen readers will cut off alt text at about 125 characters, so it's advisable to keep it to that character count or less if possible. Remember, you don't have to describe everything. Leave out descriptions of things in the image that are not relevant for context. So let me give you an example. I'm going to describe an example. Imagine that you have a photo and somebody photobombed that photo of your kids. If the purpose of the photo is to show your children, then your alt text can omit the fact that there was a photo bomber, right? No photo editing necessary. Just don't mention it. Alternatively, if you're showing the photo because the photo bomber is hilarious, then you want to make sure to describe that photo bomber in your alt text. So you don't have to describe anything. That's number one. But number two is that we also have to make sure we're describing enough. So there's a huge gap if you're showing an image of a chart, and that's what you say. That may not accurately describe what the image is when compared to a bar chart illustrating that there has been year-over-year increase in forest fires, peaking at 100 this year. Make sure that you're describing enough about that image so that the person who is reading it really understands the complete and total message behind that image. If an image is purely decorative, you can leave the alt description blank. It's most relevant on websites and or emails where you may have like a decorative line or something like that. If it's purely decorative and does not lend to the content, we don't need alt text, okay? Number 4, no need for the obvious. You don't have to say image of or photograph of. Most screen readers prefer that you don't. So again, when you put that image description, photo of a person, cross out photo of, just write a person, right? And continue your description. Sometimes I will note if it's an illustration or a photograph, if that's relevant, but if it's not relevant, like I said, just describe what the scene shows. 5 is that color matters. Mention color if it's important to understand the image. This can help people who see blurry images differentiate some of the colors they may see. So if you are drawing attention to a red hat, for example, mention that it's a red hat and not just a hat, because somebody who sees blurry may be able to identify the red, and then they would know that that was the hat in the image. 6 is to share humor. We talked about our photobombing example before. Alt text doesn't have to be overly formal, and it should do its best to express what's funny if there is something funny about a picture. When it comes to describing people, it is okay to use proper nouns and names. Only include extra identifiers for people if it's relevant to the overall context of the image. What do I mean by extra identifiers? I mean race, gender, ethnicity. If it helps in this instance, think about the content as a whole and ask yourself, is it contextually important to identify the person's race? Is it contextually important to identify the person's gender, etc.? If it's not important to the context of that photo, don't mention it. You also want to make sure you're not assuming. So if you're describing photos or representations of people, try not to assume anyone's identity. For example, when it comes to gender identity, you can say a person dancing instead of a woman dancing. The exception would be if the identity as a woman is relevant to the meaning of the image, but if it's not, just say a person dancing. There's no need to assume what that person's gender is. And the 8th thing we need to watch out for when it comes to alt text is flattened copy. So what is flattened copy? That is a term used in the industry that refers to text on an image. It's seen a lot when people post screenshots of tweets. They post screenshots of previous posts or flyers or PDFs or other digital content or just images that you create in Canva that have words on the images, right? Screen readers cannot read those words. That's why it's called flattened copy, because the words have been like squished into the image, so the screen reader can't read it as if it was written on the page, okay? So if the image has copy on it, and that copy is essential to the meaning of the image, you need to make sure that you include the copy in the alt text or in the description. So if an image has excessive flattened copy on it, like an official statement or an organizational update, the recommendation is that you should actually post that long-winded statement, that long copy statement on your website, on a blog post, and then link to that post, to that website where the full statement is available in the readable text, and also add the appropriate alt text to the image. So long statements, policies, etc. should be on your website, and we should link it to them in our posts. And when you're creating visuals for that content, limit the text to a single highlight or a single impactful quote, which you can also include in the alt text or description. You don't need to put all that text in an image. Put it on the website and link out. That's the most inclusive and accessible way to do it. Now, as with anything, this all may seem overwhelming and time-consuming. And when you first get started, it will definitely feel that way, but it will become much quicker and easier as you go and as you build it into your normal routines. Remember that we are changing the world here, but we don't have to do it all at once. So take one step at a time towards making your marketing more accessible and more inclusive. I promise you, soon enough, you are going to get the hang of it. We have made Just Marketing accessible to you, however you prefer to consume your content. Subscribe and listen on your favorite podcast player. Subscribe on our YouTube channel to watch the videos or read our transcriptions on the blog, and you can subscribe there as well. We'd appreciate honest reviews wherever you are listening. And of course, if you would share this content with anyone who is or should be on a Just Marketing journey. Thank you so much for being with us again today. I appreciate you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.